We must be careful how we perceive how our friends and family are actually doing. What can seem quite normal and fine on the outside is often the total opposite on how someone's feeling on the inside. My name's Charles Grassi, and I want to tell you my story. This story is about a family man, a businessman, and a professional sportsman, while being addicted to alcohol and painkillers. I was desperate and I needed help. I went to a doctor that gave me tablets that nearly took my life. Once again, I found myself in a total desperate situation with nowhere to turn. So you never guess what I did. I did my research, I listened to podcasts, and I put myself in a hotel room and I took 15 grams of the Golden Teacher magic mushroom. It was 17 hours of total chaos, but it worked. Please don't take 15 grams of mushrooms, ever. Just don't do it. At the end of October, it's going to be 1 year since that mushroom night. And I want to tell you everything. I'm going to tell you about the addictions. I'm going to tell you about the doctor. I'm going to tell you about the tablets that I never wanted to take. I'm going to tell you about the 17 hours with the magic mushrooms. This is an amazing story, but it's also a horrible story. But I want my friends and family to watch this. It's important. Welcome to my journey. My name's Charles Grassi, but before I tell you my story about what happened to me in the last just over a year, I think I need to tell you just a bit about myself and a bit about why I'm actually sitting here today telling you this. I'm going to tell you about, like I said, the alcohol that I was addicted to. I'm going to tell you about how I had to take painkillers every day just to get out of bed. I'm also going to tell you about the mushrooms I took that changed my life and that got me back to this state, which I think is a lot better. But the main reason is, I went to a psychiatrist and he diagnosed me with bipolar and he gave me antidepressants and anti-anxiety tablets. And in the end, they were so bad for me that I nearly ended my own life. And this just hasn't sat well with me for a while. And every time I speak to someone about it, a friend or someone, a big heavy weight just gets lifted away from my shoulders. So I'm sitting here today just so I can tell people that are in my situation that there is an alternative. And just when you think that the end is here and you've got no hope and no one to help you, there is hope. The other thing I need to tell you is, yes, I'm going to talk to you about a psychiatrist, but to be honest, I'm not a doctor, clearly, and doctors are good. There's a lot of people that have been helped by psychiatrists, so I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to one. I'm just telling you what happened to me and what's happened to a lot of different people that I know or that I know the stories of. So that's it. Let me start. I was a professional sportsman when I was younger. I was a disciplined sportsman. And I say that because it takes discipline to be good at any sport. I was a multiple South African jet ski champion. I hold a jet ski world slalom record. I raced motocross, I raced superbikes, and I raced cars for Toyota. I'm also telling you this just so you know kind of what person I am. I am a person that needs a fix, of adrenaline. And, over the years, definitely the painkillers started from an earlier age because, when you race things and you injure yourself, you need medication to get you to back into your sport as quick as possible. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a few businesses. My main business is a business that I've had for over 20 years, which for me, I had to run my own business because I never finished school. I'm ADHD and I'm dyslexic. And yes, for some of my business life again, I was under the influence of alcohol and painkillers. So having my own business also allowed me, to get through a lot of this on my own time, but it also gave me a lot of time with my family. I'm blessed with a beautiful wife and two gorgeous girls. They've supported me through everything that we've been through and that I've been through. When I was addicted to alcohol and painkillers, it's the ones you love, and it's the family that bears the brunt of everything that you do. And it's just great to know that your family, when you come back, they are there and they do want to support you. Let me tell you now about the drinking and the pain meds. For many years, I was addicted to the alcohol, and then which kind of led also into the painkillers. So drinking is just something that I wish I'd never ever started. But growing up, my whole family drank, and so it was socially acceptable, I guess, and it was just easy to drink. I also had a privileged upbringing, but my whole home life was quite erratic, especially because my mom was a heavy, at the end of her life, she was actually a really heavy drinker. And my dad used to drink a lot through his career and through our life. I used to look at my dad, to be honest, and sit there and say to myself, I don't want to be like my dad. And then I realized later how many kids say that about their parents. And I'm sure my kids said the same thing about me. So knowing that, it's quite important for me, for me to show my kids that I don't drink anymore. Because, the whole thing is my dad stopped drinking at 68. I stopped drinking at 45. And hopefully my kids, if they start drinking, which, well, they kind of have a little bit, hopefully they can stop at 25. So, I just see if I get it right, it's definitely going in the right direction. My dad and I are much closer now than we ever have been in our lives. And that, I can tell you, it's because we don't drink and we've become to just have a better understanding of each other. Sadly, my mom died of cancer when she was 60. She was a struggling alcoholic. There were a lot of times when she didn't drink for like 10 years and things like that. But at the end, she was drinking a lot. And, I used to threaten her when I used to go over to the house. I used to threaten her with the kids and say, if she doesn't stop drinking, she won't be allowed to see the kids. But the crazy thing was, at that time, I was also drinking. So, I was just a hypocrite. Having my mom in that position, it just made it terrible for her, and it was also terrible for me, because then when she did go, our relationship, just purely because of the booze, was just really non-existent. And at the end, it just made me feel I just didn't really get closure because we weren't as close as what we were when I was much younger. My mom was a fun person. We used to get on. I got suspended from school once in the UK, and she picked me up and took me straight to the movies. She just treated it like it was an extra holiday. So I've also got a lot of regrets around that. I just feel like sometimes I could have done more. Addiction definitely runs in our family. My sister was an addict, and now she's been clean for 13 years. So that for me also, when I used to look back and I was trying to get myself better and clean, I used to think of my sister a lot and just think how she did it as well. During my 20s, I used to party a lot and drink a lot. And we all used to go out with me and my mates, and then we used to drive between, you know, from bar to bar, which I'm definitely not proud of. I used to drive with my family and other people in the car after I'd had some drinks. My youngest daughter has got a video of me falling out of one of my cars. And I have to take my hat off to her, you know, and I'm proud of her that she had the balls to actually do it and stand up to me and show me the video. That was also a moment when I realized I've got to do something about this. I think I also used to drink a lot because I used to have to try and keep my mind still, and I didn't really know. I didn't have the tools to be able to just calm myself down, really. So, you know, after racing and being on the edge for so long, I think, you know, going into the business life, I kind of needed some kind of fix. And to be honest, I think the alcohol gave me that fix because I would often kind of be out of control. And that was just a place that I really liked to live. Um, you know, so when I was racing and doing high speeds, you know, there's a certain time that you cannot think of anything because you're on the edge, you're racing, you're doing high speeds, and, you know, and that used to block out. And that, I think that was part of my medicine in life to keep me kind of on the right track. So when I stopped all of that, you know, I still had to have that feeling, and I think that's where, again, the drinking just took over because that was the only thing that would be fun. My addiction to pain meds started a little later, and to be honest, I didn't realize I was addicted to pain meds until I needed to stop them. Um, you know, I think that obviously the pain later on came from a lot of my injuries that I used to have when I was racing. And as I got a bit older, you know, the pain just got a bit worse and worse. But really, it was because of all the drinking. I mean, you're never going to heal yourself when you're drinking. So the drinking just made it worse. The painkillers, basically, I would have to get someone to bring me food in the morning while I was still in bed. And I'd have to eat and then take a couple of Myprodols, a couple of Voltarens, and maybe an hour later or so, I would be able to get out of bed. And that's how I started my day, nearly every day, before I went to work. The problem about painkillers is it doesn't just affect the body, it affects your mind instantly. And I can tell you this because now, because I don't take painkillers anymore, well, I've taken a handful in a year when it was an emergency. But soon as I take a pain med, it affects my mind instantly. It gets foggy. I start just feeling terrible. So yeah, I just want to tell you, you know, pain meds are fine in a short space, but you have to get off them. Otherwise, it'll end up affecting you mentally. So now I'm battling with alcohol and pain meds. And the worst thing about that is you actually start losing bits of time. So, I mean, I would go out to do something. The next thing, I would actually maybe go somewhere to a center and have a sleep. Or, you know, Leanne would tell me to do something and I would go out and then I would just forget what to do and I didn't know what I was doing. And then she would be phoning me, looking for me, saying, "Hey, Charles, what are you doing? You're meant to be back here." And I would just say, "Oh, yeah, of course." And I and I couldn't actually remember at the time why she sent me out to the shops. I also had quite a serious car accident that could have ended my life at this time. And again, it was because of mixing these two drugs. Uh, I know it's a hard thing to say for me right now, but to be honest, it happened. So now I realized I had a real problem. I decided to go to some addiction meetings, which, when you go in, it takes balls to take that step, to be honest, because you just don't want to be that loser. Because when you walk into that meeting, you just look at everyone and you're just like, oh, fuck, what a pile of losers. But then, you got to settle in and you sit down and then you realize, actually it's just everyday people with some problems and they just want to fix it. So I would definitely recommend going to some meetings, but because I did learn a lot there. I myself didn't go. I probably went to about 5 meetings because for me, I wanted to know that I was going to be fixed, and I wanted to know that I never wanted to think that I couldn't have a drink for the rest of my life, because that was a really hard thing to do. So about the 3rd meeting, I went in and I sat down and I was just looking at everyone and I just asked myself this question because I just was feeling terrible. And I just said, Charles, I just asked myself, Charles, you're going to drink for the rest of your life, aren't you? And I just answered yes. And that was just a reality that just came, and it was just I think when people get to that stage, it's a big reality, and it's a terrible, terrible feeling, because soon as you get that, you realize for the rest of your life that you're going to drink. You realize that your life is going to go downhill. You realize that you might lose your family. You just realize the worst. And let me tell you, it happens. This is probably the worst mental state I was in, or the lowest of when I was drinking alcohol. And I'm not talking the physical side about doing stupid things. I'm just saying mentally, when you realize that that is it, it's a terrible, terrible feeling. So the good thing about that is, after that, I did get some hope, and that's what pulled me out of it. So it doesn't matter how low, how bad, if you're sitting somewhere thinking, this is it, and this is it for the rest of my life, it doesn't have to be. And as soon as you get that hope, it'll change your life. Things for me mentally actually got quite bad after COVID. I was just so tired. I couldn't walk past a couch without lying on it. I literally felt like I couldn't even lift my legs up. And this is where my mental health just really started going downhill. The problem is, when you are in this downward spiral, you don't know who to talk to. You've got people you can talk to and family that are there to help you. But to be honest, you cannot explain what you're feeling. You just can't. Well, I couldn't. And I think lots of people can't. So you kind of run out of options. So anyway, I remember it was getting so bad that I was not even going to work anymore. So the one day, I remember this, I'm not sure why, but it was a Wednesday, and I was sitting on the end of my bed. It was probably about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Everyone had gone to work and school, and I was just sitting on the end of my bed, begging my body to work. It's the strangest thing. So I was sitting there just going, Charles, you've done all this stuff. You've got your business, and you're out and about. You were doing sport. You were racing. You were winning. Who is this person that's taken over your body? Because that's actually what it feels like. So I'm literally sitting there, saying, please work, So I gave myself a target. I said to myself, if you can I just willed my body to work for 1 year and my mind to work for 1 year. That's all I needed it to do. And I just was thinking, if I can work for a year, I'll maybe sell my business, give my money to the family, and then I'll just fade away over time. And literally, like that one section when I was telling you how bad I felt, or my lowest point was with the alcohol, this was one of my lowest points with my mind. I literally couldn't walk down the stairs. I didn't understand why I would even walk down the stairs. And again, we just get up and we show up after that. When someone says, okay, well, we're going out for dinner, or we're going to do this, or I have to go to work, you go, but you're not yourself. You just show up, and that's pretty much all you actually do. So an example actually of that is, actually it's not really an example because I didn't really show up to this. So I would fly to Cape Town on business for 3 days. I would check into the hotel, and for 3 days, sometimes I would never even leave the hotel. I would basically buy some wine, empty the fridge out in the room, and I would say to myself, come on, tomorrow you've just got to get up and get to work. And then I just couldn't get to work. So I'd fly to Cape Town, stay in the hotel for 3 days solid, just trying to figure out what to do with myself, trying to figure out when I see people, what am I actually going to say to them. I was just like a lost cause, and I just couldn't, because I wasn't getting any better, I was just getting worse and worse and worse. I think I ended up doing business trips just so I could lock myself in a bedroom. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I couldn't talk to anyone. And then I would phone the office and just say, listen, I'm just too busy. I'll get to them next time. And then I would just fly back home, tell everyone that, business was good. What a waste of money. What a waste of money. So now I was really battling with my mental health. I couldn't get up in the morning. I just couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't go to work. I didn't want to see my friends. I couldn't hold conversations with people. My life was just on a downward spiral. So after long discussions, I decided to go to a highly recommended psychologist. So before I carry on, I just want to say I understand and I know people are on tablets and people have been saved by psychologists, and it's great. But all I'm referring to is me right now and for what happened to me. And I'm not a doctor, I'm just someone telling you my story. Okay. So I'm not going to mention even the actual tablets I was taking, because if anyone does want to know that, they must rather message me and I can tell you what I took. Because I'm sure these drugs have helped other people. So I decided to go to see this psychologist, and you must understand this normally is at the end when this is your last option. This is it. So you go in, the guy was very nice. He's listening to some of my problems. I'm telling him about my drinking. He goes to his board and he marks this line like I'm up and I'm down, and he's trying to explain to me that what we need to do is just have a flat line through the middle. So, which I don't think is right, because we need our emotions to get through life. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening to him. He seems really good, and he prescribes me some tablets. So I go away, I start the tablets, and to be honest, I think they did help a bit. They definitely stabilized me. But, speaking to my family, I was just literally also just getting through the day with a lot less emotions. You know, being diagnosed with what he was saying, with the depression, everything. I just don't think enough was put into that part of it and understanding who I was. So anyway, I go away, I take the tablets, and then I decide, or actually I tell everyone first, I say, listen, if I'm going to do this, you need to watch me because I'm shit scared of these doctors. And I've heard terrible stories, but there is no other way at this point. So I'm taking the tablets, everything is all right. But you end up just living your life being all right. And at that point, it's actually fine because it's better than feeling even worse. But it still wasn't really doing that much good. So I went back and he changed the one tablet. It came away, I changed it, tried that for a couple of weeks. Also wasn't great. Tried it again. So this time he gave me he switched my tablet. And basically from the second I took it, it just made me feel like the world was going to end. It was like a switch. I had a knot in my stomach that just never went away. It was like 24/7 in my gut. Leanne was really worried about me because I was just battling to even get through a day. And I mean, I'd only started taking these tablets like for 2 days. But you don't think straight away that, oh, it's just this tablet, because you think, oh, it's just a change. I'm sure it'll level itself out. But it doesn't, or it didn't. So I ended up going to a friend's dinner. When I was sitting at the dinner, I remember walking into the house just thinking, I don't even want to be here, and I could hardly even walk up the stairs into the house. I was sitting at the table with my friends, my best friends, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I don't even like these people. Why am I here? I need to get out of here. And then we actually left and we went home. Again, so basically what I was doing, I was actually being two totally different people. On the outside, I could still talk to people and say, yes, hi. You know, when someone says, hey, how you doing? You go, hey, I'm doing great. But on the inside, your body is going and your mind is going, I just want to get out of here. You're feeling terrible, but it'll be okay tomorrow. And this is why you actually get these two kind of people that you're trying to fight with all the time. You've got the body on the outside that's trying to get through life and showing up. And then you've got the person on the inside that's just going, hey, we need to get out of here. Because all I wanted to do was crawl up and go home and just lie in a corner. Leanne also was worried, but she really didn't know what was actually going on inside my head, because I didn't want to worry her. So the next day, it must have been the Monday, I flew to Joburg on business, and I told her I'm going to stop that one tablet and, you know, keep taking the other ones, because I was obviously scared to stop everything. So I stopped it. To be honest, I don't know if it was on Monday that I stopped it or Tuesday, but I ended up stopping it. I went to Joburg. Leanne was really worried. She actually phoned my dad and P and just said, listen, Charles isn't in a good space. She is a bit worried. But I kept telling her that, you know, everything was okay. So, you know, I get to Joburg, I go to work. You know, I go the whole day, I'm at work, I'm doing what I need to do. I get home that night, or to the hotel. That was okay. The next day I got up, went to work. And that was obviously from stopping the tablet now. It just started making me feel even worse. So stopping that tablet, like a lot of doctors will tell you, you know, you have to, if you take a tablet, you have to take it at the same time every day. Like, these tablets rule your life. So anyway, I did stop that one, and I'm not sure if I phoned the doctor at that point or not. I can't actually remember. But I was at work and I just had to leave the office and go home. It must have been just after 12 o'clock or so. I got into the car, I left, and I went back to the hotel. I parked the car and walked into the hotel, and everything just started collapsing. That's the only thing I can actually say. I felt like the world was going to end. I walked into the hotel. I've just got gaps and I can't remember the whole trip from the office actually to my room, but I made it, and everything started getting like quite hyper focused, and then quite jittery at the time. So I grabbed the door handle, I put my card in, I got into the room, and that's just when it all fell apart. I need to tell you that things fall apart in seconds. That's what it felt like. Literally seconds. I almost felt like I had to run to the room to make sure I got there. But once I was in and things started breaking down, I was just picturing my family, and the thought I had was that they're gonna die. I mean, I don't know how you would actually think that, but the mind, it just started breaking down, and I mean, to think that your family is going to die because of you, but there is actually no reason. It's almost like it's tricking you into this. So I'm like seeing this, and I'm actually now just walking from one side of the room to the next because I actually don't know really what I'm doing and what I'm controlling at this point. I eventually stopped because I actually couldn't put a foot in front of the other foot eventually. I stopped and didn't know what to do. At this point, I actually felt like I had a bit of an out-of-body experience, to be honest, because one part of me was on the floor saying, like going with this whole thing, this pain, these visions of what was going on, and this dread and disaster. And then there was me over here saying, like looking at myself saying, Charles, this isn't you. You've got to get up, you know? And you got to get up and you got to fight, and who's controlling you? Because it wasn't me. I was not controlling myself at that point. And this takes seconds. And this is why people don't understand when someone does something and hurts themselves or commits suicide. A lot of the people say, well, we didn't see it coming. The location was strange. The timing's strange, you know, and there's all of these unanswered questions all the time. So, you know, it happens so quickly. You don't know, in this case, you know, you don't know what you're doing. I'm seeing myself lying on the floor. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then, so I'm on the floor, and now I'm thinking clearly the worst. And this darkness just starts, it's literally, you stop seeing everything outside, and it all starts going internally. So you start seeing everything, but you're not actually really awake. You're just running on something else. So this darkness started coming in, and as the darkness came closer and closer, it just got rid of everything in its path, and it just eventually comes into the room with you, and you're standing at the center of the universe, where it's just total darkness around you. The only thing I could see was maybe 1.5 meters or 1 meter in front of me of the carpet. And that was it. So what it does is, at that point, part of me again was going, well, there's nothing else here, so I'm just going to go. Why would I stay here? And I mean, at this point, you're not even upset because you can't be, because there's nothing around you. You know, everything's gone, your family's gone. You are literally the last person on the planet. And that is when I decided, I just said to myself, okay, let's go. And that was the decision. And that was me. And that's something that I've got to live with, which is a good thing, for the rest of my life. You know, I saw a weaker version of me on the floor, just out of control. You know, and to think that I actually agreed to go ahead with it is just mind altering for myself, because this just isn't me. I've never wanted to do, never ever been in this situation, and after this, I've never been in this situation again. So to me, you know, this is the story for me. This is the part that nearly took my life. This is the part that nearly made my kids fatherless and my wife on her own. And it's just not good enough. You know, where was the support? How did someone like myself get on the floor, get into that situation? It's just not right. So let me just get back to the story. So I made the decision. I couldn't believe it because I was watching myself make this decision. And I just decided I'm going to go. And that is the act of actually doing the deed at the end is probably 5% of the whole ordeal. You don't even think of it. And that, I think, is why people go, why did they do this? It's so out of character. Because at that point, there is no character. You've just got one mission, and it's to get to the other side. And that is it. To me, it actually felt like I was getting tricked into it. So what happened? To be honest, I'm not sure. Because I think something inside of me, or maybe it was God, or I don't know, but I passed out. And I'm not sure how long it was. It was clearly quite a long time, because it was the next day now when I actually came to. And I remember just, you know, coming around and trying to figure out where I was. And eventually I just jumped onto the bed and I put my hands into the bed like this, because I was so scared of what I was capable of doing. I mean, I literally lost all thoughts, you know. So anyway, so I jumped back on the bed. I've got my hands like clawed into the bed, because I can see a door on my left and a window on my right. And to be honest, I'm just sitting there going, I'm not sure what I'm capable of, so I'm just going to sit here for a while. And I think it was quite a long time. But the crazy, crazy thing about this whole ordeal was, after I clearly got my mind together, I just got up, went into the shower, got dressed, and then just went straight back to work. I don't know, you know, how it reacted again so badly, because also at the time, I hadn't had anything to drink, which is quite an important thing, because remember, drinking on these tablets is a bad idea. So please, you've also got to understand that mixing antidepressants and booze is a really bad thing. But I hadn't actually drank. I just hadn't drank. It was just the tablets. Later that day, Now, so the story goes like this. Obviously, when I got up, got showered, and went to work, my mind totally blanked out the whole experience. I, I didn't know then what had actually happened. But later that day, what was quite strange, I ended up like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember it was much later. I phoned Leanne and said, listen, don't worry. I'm fine. I remember I had to talk to her and make sure she knew I was okay. But I said to her, don't worry, I'm fine, but I need to tell you something. And I said to her, I didn't, but I can see now how a tablet can make someone want to kill themselves. And that was actually exactly what I said to her. But thinking that nothing had happened to me. It was just a thought that I had. So after I realized what had happened, and after I plucked up the courage again to actually phone the doctor. Now this is after a year. This doctor has never phoned me. I left his office after him changing my tablets, and as far as I know, he's never tried to contact me. So, and that can't be right. You don't give tablets to people and then never ask them what happened, surely. And especially when they just disappear from you. So anyway, a couple of months ago now, I actually phoned them up, and because of the video and everything, I just wanted to ask him, because I was quite scared of what I was going to do to this guy, actually. That's why I didn't want to go around. But I phoned him up, and I said, listen, can you just give me I phoned the receptionist, can you tell me the tablets that you last prescribed for me? Now, yes, I could have gone to the chemist, but obviously I wanted them to give it to me. So she didn't want to give me the list of tablets. So then she put me through to the doctor. And, he says, hello, how's it going? And I actually said, listen, I'm just calling because can you just tell me the list, that last drug that you gave me? Because it really, really had an effect. And I just want to make sure that I never take this thing ever again. It was terrible. And all he said was, were you drinking? I mean, first of all, I went for that problem, and I told him I was drinking and doing this stuff, and I was all over the show, and I needed some help. I mean, that's why I went. So he says, well, were you drinking? And I said, well, no, I wasn't actually. And then he goes, well, those tablets weren't that strong, so it shouldn't have affected you like that. And then I said, listen, just give me the list. And he goes, have you got a pen? And I said, well, what do you mean, have you got a fucking pen? And he wants me to write it down. So I said, just email me. And he goes, well, no, I can't just email you, And he says, can you not write it down? It took me 3 phone calls, because obviously after that, I'm going to get my list from him. It took 3 or 4 phone calls to get an email from them with the list of drugs. I was totally on my own. And and the problem with this is, you've gone through all of this, you've gone to the doctor, and if that doctor told you to take any tablet, you would take it, because it's your last line of defense. That is it. So we had a friend that committed suicide a couple of years ago, and he was on medication, obviously not doing well, didn't know where to turn. And the thing that really got me about that is, say half a year or a year afterwards, a few different people spoke to the wife and said, my husband was on the same tablets and he nearly committed suicide. So for me, that's just too little too late. And that was a big wake-up call, for me, having a bit later go through this whole process, this thing, and why I'm here today is because if this happens, we need to tell people, and I know it's stressful, and I know we can't be weak, and I know it's the man. Well, this is how I view it. I'm the man of the house. I've got to protect. So if I can't even protect myself, how am I going to protect my family? But when you're dead, you can't protect anybody. So that just really pissed me off, actually. I'm not going to a funeral and saying to someone, hey, I took some tablets and I nearly committed suicide. I wish I'd told you about it. So this is a big driving factor today of why I'm sitting here, because this is weighing on my shoulders. I can feel it. And every time I do tell someone, it makes me feel like I've done something. But it is actually driving me a little nuts. So I'm glad I'm getting this story out today. And I want you to watch it. And I want you to send this to your friends. Because I actually don't give a shit. I am strong. And you'll see with some of the other stuff just now, I am a strong person. I am a leader. I'm a business owner. I'm a father. I'm a husband. And we worry that people won't respect us and people won't want to do business with us. I don't think anyone's going to come up to me and say that to me, because I'm a man, and I'm a man trying to fix this, and I'm a man trying to fix myself. So after that night in the hotel room, after the tablets of death, I call them now, I wanted to fix myself. I had this feeling, even though I didn't know what had actually happened, I had this feeling like I needed to do something. So I thought, okay, let's start with the drinking. So I was trying to figure out, and I know a long time ago, many years, you could actually get an implant for drinking, and it was like an anti-booze thing. And I just thought, that could be quite a good option, because it just can take it out of your mind. I just needed something to just get me started. So anyway, it's quite a funny story, because my dad was actually at a wine festival on a boat somewhere, and he had already stopped drinking, but he was still at this festival with friends, and he overheard a lady talking about her daughter, and they had she found a doctor that could put an implant in. So my dad, being my dad, went straight over, got the full story, and then he phoned me up and he said, Charles, I found that implant. And when he said that to me, and this is why things can change so quickly, I knew from that second that I was going to be okay. When he said, there's a doctor that can do an implant, for some reason, my mind just said, it's going to be okay. So anyway, I booked this appointment. About 2 weeks later, I get to Joburg. I go to this appointment, and I was so excited to get this implant. I hadn't actually been drinking because something was in my head. It was still like a thought. I hadn't cracked it, but from that phone call, I actually didn't drink. So, and that's what hope does. That's all it was one phone call. So anyway, I get there. I'm just so excited to meet the doctor. And he was kind of, I think, looking at me like, I don't know if this guy needs an implant. But because he said to me, when did you last drink? And I was like, well, I don't know. Well, I stopped like 2 weeks ago. And I don't, want to drink. But I could feel, I could definitely, I mean, I wasn't 100% sure, but I was in a good space. But anyway, I just wanted this implant. So I got the implant, and it made me feel much better. The doctor actually changed the other parts of my medication. So I totally dropped all the meds from that other doctor that never phoned me. I just disappeared. I don't know where he thinks I disappeared to. And that was the best that I actually felt in a long time. So at least this doctor actually knew what he was kind of doing, and he was linking the alcohol and the one or two meds he did give me. It just took the edge off, and I could, kind of be a bit of me again, you know? And also stopping drinking helps a lot. So anyway, I think it's every 3 months you've got to go back it was 3 months. You have to go back for a second implant. I never needed a second implant, but I still went and I got the implant. I paid for it because I just thought it was part of, I didn't want to let myself off that easy. You've got to follow through. So I did it, and that was the last implant I ever got. Which I'm really quite happy about now. But yeah, so it was just a really good space that I was in, and I was feeling better than the last 2 years. So now my drinking's fixed. And so I think my drinking's fixed, and it is. So I'm in a good place. So now I'm thinking to myself, now I've got to work on my mind, because my mind still isn't right. So someone started telling me about magic mushrooms. Okay. Now, I started doing my research, and it was the good part is all the research is there, on podcasts and everywhere. The bad thing is I couldn't tell anyone. Here I am now. I'm still on medication. I'm a bit worried about everything that I've gone through. And now, I couldn't imagine myself coming home and saying to everyone, hey, well, now I'm just going to take some mushrooms, magic mushrooms, and I'm just going to try it, and I think everything will be okay. So the problem is you can't tell anyone, because everyone's just going to look at you like you're mad. And they're going to say, well, just go back to the doctor. So anyway, I decide to go on this journey with psilocybin mushrooms. So I was a bit nervous at first. So what I did was, every time I went to Johannesburg on business, I would plan, and I knew I could stop the tablets, because these tablets weren't that bad. So I could stop them for a couple of days, and they didn't have any real, say, side effects. And then I would the first time I took 1 gram of magic mushrooms. And look, it's really nice taking magic mushrooms. Very relaxing. It gets your creative mind going. So then I did it, and then after that I obviously went back to my tablets. And then I waited a week or so, and then I thought, okay, well, I need to do it again. So then when I was back in Joburg, I stopped my tablets for a day or two, and then I took about 2 grams of magic mushrooms. And yeah, that was a bit different again. And, after that, I actually didn't need to take the tablets anymore. But it is a lonely time, because now, I'm on magic mushrooms. Well, not on magic mushrooms, but, I've taken magic mushrooms. It's helping me, but now I've got all this doubt. Now I've got people asking me if I'm okay all the time. Now, and bearing in mind, no one knew what happened. Still, no one knows yet what happened that night on the tablets. Okay. So I end up stop taking all of the medication, and I'm thinking to myself, I hope this works, because if it doesn't, now what? Literally, I've got nowhere to turn. So I stopped the tablets. Every, say, a couple of weeks, I would just have a little bit of psilocybin with the mushrooms. And, I was back in Durban, and we're standing in the kitchen, and I actually was saying to my wife, listen, how am I acting? And, how am I doing? And she was saying, geez, Charles, you're really good. Your mood isn't up and down as much. And, I'm just stable, and I'm getting, back into things and this and that. And she's like, Jesus, these tablets are obviously working. But meanwhile, now I haven't been on these tablets for a month, but I still can't tell anyone. I'm so scared because of what people are going to say and what my family's going to say. So anyway, the next day or so, we're in the kitchen and her phone rings, and it's the chemist phoning to say Charles hasn't picked up his meds for like a month and a bit. Are you going to come and get them? And obviously she just looked at me, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm bust. But it was the perfect timing. But the ironic thing is, she went into a bit of a panic. She looked at me like I'm not taking anything, and I'm looking at her, but like I'm better. And I think she just couldn't put two and two together because she was so worried. You know what I mean? She was worried. So then anyway, it was great, and then I had to explain the whole thing to her. Obviously, I haven't yet, by the way, told her about that night in the hotel, because I still haven't remembered this yet. So I've done my mushrooms, I'm off my tablets, but I'm still not the old Charles, I'm still battling a bit, but now I've had my eyes opened a bit, and now, I'm starting to think, maybe there's more to this. And that's when I started thinking, and started researching deeper into the magic mushrooms. And that's when I realized, when I watched Netflix, and there's all these documentaries that you can watch, like How to Change Your Mind, Have a Good Trip, Fantastic Fungi. If you watch these, it's amazing. So anyway, and they've got real life people telling you real life stories. So, and then I started looking at all these other people and what they've done. So I think, in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm going in. But like lots of things in my life, I go in with like everything. Like I jump in, because I'm not a person that likes gray areas or that middle like room. I like to know if it worked or it didn't work, or I'm going left or I'm going right. That's much simpler for me. It's important that now I do tell you a little bit of history with me before I also jump into the actual mushroom journey I did with the 15 grams, which, by the way, I don't think was a very clever idea. So I will explain a bit of that as well beforehand. So let me just tell you a bit, and you won't realize now, but oh, fuck, I'm all over the show.
Oh, that's almost good. That's good.
Where must I start again then? Now no one's looking at me or talking, and everyone left. And let me tell you, it is a terrible, terrible feeling when people start leaving and you know that they're not going to come back. And that's when I realized I was actually in a grave, and it was my fucking funeral. And I just remember my last breath and my last heartbeat, and my spirit just left my body. But it kind of felt like God sent her to me so she could look after me, because at the end of it, I don't think I'd be alive today if it wasn't for Leanne.